My name is Arend and I teach at Regis Jesuit High School in Aurora, Colorado. Before teaching, I was an aerospace engineer for 35 years. I worked for Lockheed Martin and United Launch Alliance to design, build, analyze, test, and launch rockets into space. I retired from aerospace in 2020 and began teaching at Regis Jesuit in 2022. I created two classes. Introduction to Rocket Science is intended for freshmen and sophomores, while Advanced Rocket Science is intended for juniors and seniors who are looking to take the math and science they've learned in other classes and apply them to real-world rocket science problems. In my classes, I teach my students about rockets, what they look like, how they work, and from my own personal experience, how to design and analyze them. We also get into satellites and spacecraft, the different types of them, what do they do, and why we need them, why they're so important to our everyday life. We also cover Newton's laws and how they apply to rockets. We learn about liquid rocket motors, solid rocket boosters, and we even delve into advanced topics like orbital mechanics, aerodynamics, astronomy, and the problem of space debris. I teach the students about sport rocketry, and each student builds their own rocket. I teach them how to work with epoxies and electronics and power tools so that each student's rocket is crafted by their own hands. I teach students how to use computer-aided design to create their own rocket parts they will fly in their rocket, and then we get to 3D print them. These rockets are not your typical hobby store rocket. They require FAA certification to fly, and the certification is something the students can achieve as part of this class. Some of the student rocket creations are beautiful and artistic masterpieces. Others are uglier, but you gotta give them an A for creativity. Student emotions on launch day start with feelings of nervous anticipation and a little fear, and end with amazement, celebration, and gratitude for the opportunity. The students love watching their rockets launch, and most of them fly just great. Sometimes the students launch 2 or 3 or 4 rockets at a time in a drag race, but it's hard to tell who wins when they all disappear. And even rockets have bad days sometimes, and sometimes they end up looking like this. I'm also the moderator for the school's rocketry club. The club rocket launches are nothing short of spectacular. This is one of those rocket bad days. Revving up your engine, listen to her howl and roar. Sorry. And at Christmas, we took the big club rocket and made it the trunk, and took all the student class rockets and made them the branches of our rocket tree. I challenge my students to calculate how high their rocket will go, a seemingly simple problem that is not simple at all, because acceleration is not constant. The rocket thrust changes continuously, and the rocket gets lighter as it burns off propellant. The aerodynamic drag increases with higher velocity, but decreases at higher altitudes due to lower air density. Their fear is short-lived because I make them proficient in Excel software and then teach them how to use it to create dynamic simulations to handle real-world complicated problems like this. And then voila, they have their answer. I bet you can guess what date we launched the Skywalker rocket. And we don't just talk about rocket science. I like to explain to my students how science in general and math and statistics all presents an overwhelming amount of evidence that God created our universe. It just didn't happen by some natural phenomena. I feel really welcome here at Regis Jesuit, especially when my fellow science teachers exaggerate my mojo by putting little articles like this in the school newsletter. I enjoy showing kids that science can be fun, interesting, and exciting, and careers in STEM can be very rewarding. I tell my students that one day they may have a chance to go into space, either as a tourist, a scientist, or as an explorer, and one of them could be the first to set foot on Mars. I find myself getting the same questions over and over the past few years. The first one comes from professional colleagues of mine from before I retired, and they say, "Greg, what have you been doing the last few years?" I tell them my teaching story, and they always follow up with the same question. "They teach rocket science in high school?" I reply, "They do now." Second question comes from my students, and they often ask me, "Mr. Arend, is our quiz tomorrow going to be very hard?" And I just tell them, it's got to be at least a little hard. After all, it is rocket science.